have a candidate here today for the county library position, Cindy Moore. Cindy has a bachelor's degree from UW, as does her daughter and maybe son.
No, my daughter graduated from here.
And she has an MLS from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. She's held a number of positions in public libraries in the state, mostly in Sweetwater County.
Mostly.
But most recently and now, she is the branch manager of the PAL branch of the Park County Library. So, here's Cindy, and I want to remind you all who are here that she will welcome any questions when she's finished talking. Right?
She said with confidence. Well, thank you. It's really good to see this many people interested in libraries. It's great to see some familiar faces. And talking about libraries is never difficult to do. They asked me to talk about the challenges and opportunities that are coming up for the future in public libraries. You can't entirely see this, but if you could see it better, you'd see the picture out in the universe. And I picked that purposely because I think it's kind of a metaphor for libraries. The universe is infinite, so is information in libraries. Oh, you all disappeared.
Maybe too much.
You want to see it? It's also a beautiful picture, and I find libraries to be beautiful and awesome. So I picked this picture purposely to kind of illustrate all of those things. Some of the things that we have coming up in the future maybe aren't beautiful or awesome, but I've been fortunate to work in libraries. I feel really lucky that I work in libraries, and I enjoy it a lot, so I wanted to start out with something that was pleasant. So as far as challenges and opportunities go, it's kind of the different sides of the same coin. If you have a challenge, can you find an opportunity to be able to meet that challenge? If you have an opportunity, can you challenge yourself enough to be able to use that opportunity? So in all the infiniteness of the universe, I picked out just a couple of things that I felt were connected to the future that I think are big issues for libraries. The first one is funding, and nobody really wants to talk about funding. It's not that much fun. But because of our economic crisis that we're in nationwide, partly, and partly because advocacy for libraries is always an issue. Funding is something that goes forward with us, and it is something that we need to look at closely and study and know about. The other thing also related to funding is technology. Of course, you know that if you went out and bought a computer today, by the time you drove home and put it in your house, it would be out of date. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the technology that libraries offer. This building, Susan told me, was built in the 1980s before the computer PC craze got started. So, of course, we're not wired correctly. Everything moves so fast. And it's difficult to keep up with. So you have the issue of, do we have the funding for technology? You also have the issue of, what is that and how do I do it? And how do we keep our staff trained so that the library is the go-to place and the place where people can ask questions and use their technology. So there's a lot of facets in both of these. There is my slippery slope for funding. And I think all libraries are dealing with funding on all levels. It's difficult to continue offering more and more and more with less and less and less. So we do need to look at creative ways of funding and also be as much aware of funding sources and grants as we can possibly be. This is a little infographic from the American Library Association. It's just a little part of it. I apologize I couldn't get all of it in there. But it does illustrate that generally libraries are offering more in technology. And this is across the United States, not just in Albany, not just in Wyoming. So we're offering 36% more in technology classes, 58% more in electronic resources, 60% more in computers. Libraries are 74% up on Wi-Fi, while all all of that is about the same down in funding. So as we go forward, it is an issue. Can we continue to offer all the things that we really want to offer, that we really think libraries are good at, that the public wants, while we have all of these decreased funds? So it isn't just Albany County, it isn't just where I'm from, it's everywhere. I'm not exactly sure how they turned Wyoming into a blue state. I just thought the infographic kind of illustrated the difference between our funding and our technology. And it's an issue where I have at home. And the other thing that I'd like everybody to be aware of is that we do have a digital divide. You've all heard of iPads. You maybe all have a personal computer at home, but not everybody does. And libraries are that connection for a lot of people, that only connection to the world, to information, to connectivity that some folks have. Not everybody pays for all the devices that are out there. In fact, very, very few of us have all the devices that are out there. We'd like to, but we have mean, horrible husbands who do it alone. When you're looking at funding, you have to look at what it takes to run, and always the first and most important thing is the staff. I think the library is the staff, and you're only as good as the staff that you have. So you want to, generally, libraries across the board, that's where the bulk of the money goes. It's important to have a good staff. Those are the people that show us where things are. Those are the people that connect us to things that we don't understand. The second thing, and I think it's still true, even now, into this century, libraries are still associated with books. When you say library to most people, they mostly will respond with books. So, and I'm enough of a traditionalist that I like books, and I hope that we continue in that vein. I don't see them going away, even though we have lots of e-offerings out there. I think books are a bridge to that digital divide. Not all of us can read on a reader, not all of us have a computer, but all of us generally can get to a library and pick up a book. So we have to pay careful attention to our collections. And now those collections involve a lot more than books. They involve databases and putting money towards e-books, all those kinds of things. So like I said, the costs of everything are going up. And there is technology. Technology is fabulous and wonderful and extremely expensive. You have a number of computers. Susan told me the number is at 37 public computers in this library, which is, I think, a pretty good number compared to the libraries that I've been in previously. But I think a community has to have those things in a library. And then it also has to have some instruction. We constantly, in the libraries that I've been in, have people come in and hand us their new e-reader that their grandson bought them and go, you know how to turn this off? So that is a function that libraries have been filling. So it's important that librarians, the people that work in a library, are up to date and educated and trained on technology. The next thing on the list would be programming. That's how we get people who may not normally have come in the library into the library. We offer things that are of interest to our public in our community. We want to pull in young adults. That's the age where kids start moving away from. We have story times, and then they get into junior high, and they forgot where the library is, and forget about reading, and we need to pull those kids back in. So we need to have some edgy, interesting kinds of programming for young adults to bring them back into the library. Also, programming for me and you and everyone else in our community, something that's educational, that's interesting, or that's fun to do. So programming is a very important part of libraries. We are not just about books. We also provide a number of other services, and we have to keep that in mind. You have operating expenses. Everybody knows if you're running a business, you need pens and pencils. And that's putting it simply, but you do have, there's certain costs that go along with opening the doors and having people come in. You have to have lights, you have to have those kinds of things, and that keeps libraries running. And usually at the bottom of the list, only because it can't go any higher because we don't have enough money, but not because of importance, is the training for the staff. You have have to have staff that are current and educated and understanding and knowledgeable about the things that libraries have to offer. So all of that is included in funding. I think if you look at the mission of the Albany County Library, they've said some really important things here. I'm just going to pull out some words. They have a diverse collection of materials. They're in education. They offer community programs, and they have a professional and friendly staff. And one of my absolutes is that people get greeted when they come in the library, that we're friendly, that we respond to their requests, that we honor all requests. There are no dumb questions, and you get that every day when working in a library. This is a really dumb question. There are no dumb questions, except probably the ones that I have, which are really dumb, but you know, people have questions, and sometimes it takes a while talking to them, doing a little bit of an interview to get to what their question is, but we want to be the go-to place for information for people. We have those resources. We should be the go-to place for information for people. So I think the mission statement is right on, and we refer to that. The reason that she's yelling, and the reason that I put this here, is her job is collection development. We talked about the collection. When the new John Grisham book comes out, I think the newest one is called Racketeer, she has to look at her money, and she has to decide, am I going to get it in a book? Am I going to get it in a large print? Am I going to get it in both? Am I going to get it on a book on CD? Am I going to get it on all three? Am I going to get it on a Playway? So even within our library system, even without the electronics, there are still more and more and more formats that we're doing. In a year, it's going to be on a movie, and it's going to be DVD, so now we're going to have 5. So when you go to the desk and you say, I'd like The Racketeer by John Grisham, they're going to say to you, you know, would you like mayo with that? Would you like mustard with that? Because there are all these different formats that one title can be on. And every library cannot have every single one of them unless they're very wealthy. So those decisions have to be made and based on funding and based on your community. We also have, besides just materials that you can have in your hand, the materials that you can't hold in your hand but are equally as important. The databases. I come from a reference background, so I've dealt a lot with databases and getting that information out to the public. And I was telling people earlier today that there's not a week that goes by that I don't show a database to somebody and they go, I never knew you could do that. And they're students. And they may be junior college students or high school students, and they never, or they'll say, well, my teacher says I have to have 3 sources in print. Those are sources in print. No, that's the internet. No, it's not the internet. It's the deep web. There's a difference between the deep web and what you can get on the internet. So databases are a favorite of mine, and I will shout that for all the rest of my life. But they're also things that cost us money. In Wyoming, we're really, really lucky, in case you didn't know that, because all 23 counties in Wyoming go together to buy those things. All 23 counties belong to the same database. So when a patron comes in and she's got, what was it, Nicole? $26 on her card from Laramie, and she's checking out books in Powell, I can say, my card's blocked. And before I check books out to you, you need to really take care of that. So a lot of people think they can get by those lines. In Wyoming, we're like one great big library. And that expands our books to over 1 million. And that is a benefit to being in Wyoming because not everybody has access to a library with over 1 million books in it. So Wyoming is a great place to be as far as libraries go. E-books, e-audiobooks, e-magazines, those are all new technology, things that are coming from the state that we need to be trained on, that we need to keep abreast of, we need to offer to our patrons. They're wonderful offerings. But also please remember that that goes to a smaller percentage of people than regular books do. Education was one of the things that I pulled from the mission statement. It is where my background is. I originally started in education. Programming that happens in libraries doesn't necessarily happen anywhere else. A lot of daycares will bring their children to story times in the library, or to, I think you call it book babies, we call it tumbler time. Whatever the name of it, it's the beanbag boogie. I don't know if you've tried that lately. it's those emerging literacy skills that we want to highlight and bring out in children. So we do a lot of programming for the little ones to get them ready for story time, to get story time kids ready for kindergarten, and we see a lot more success in kindergarten and school if those kids have gone through those programs. So that is a service that libraries have offered for years and years and years. Of course, we offer programming, we offer computers generally. If libraries are staffed enough, they can offer classes in computer. In Powell, I've been doing some one-on-one with people. There are still a lot of people that go, I don't even know how to turn this on. I don't even know what to do. All I want to do is email. How do I email? They don't have an email account yet, but they want to email. So those are issues. When I worked in Sweetwater County during a huge bust of 2008, 2009, we had a lot of guys coming in. Well, not guys, not necessarily guys. I can't say that. People that had been in the workforce for 30 years, doing the same job, were very good at it, got laid off. They're a really good welder or pipe fitter or one of those things I know nothing about. And they want to apply for a job. And the jobs are all online. And the jobs require an email address. So you really have to start at the beginning with them because they don't have any of that. They don't know what a mouse is or what they should do with it or why they would want to touch it. So you have to start at the beginning and get some of those resources and skills up to date before they can even go out there and apply for a job. So that's another function that libraries have been serving. Of course, we have information. That's what libraries are about, is information. We do that through the databases and doing instruction. And down there it says students, offering supplemental resources for students, which we do. Kids coming in with homework assignments, doing some research, and getting to understand what that means and how to do it. And all of those things make us a good community partner, part of a community that's thriving and vital. So when we get to the challenges, here they are. We have to recruit and retain the staff that we have, and that takes a great library. People don't want to work in a place that's no fun to be in, that's drudgery all day long. Some of library work is drudgery. Some of it's very tedious. For those of you that work in libraries, you shelve books all day long, every day. It's a little tedious. I think it's kind of a zen moment for me. I kind of like it, but we do need to recruit people into librarianship that are bright and interested and buy in to the whole culture of learning. Foundations and fringe groups are extremely important for libraries. They really do bridge the gap between us and some of our funding deficits. So to have those groups and those people willing to put their time and energy into libraries, supporting libraries, is manna from heaven. That's a good community when you have a good foundation and a good friends group. We need to, I believe, take the opportunity to create those relationships with the people that are out there that make the decisions. So the city council and the county commissioners and the legislators. But we also need to remember that every person that walks in that door is a potential relationship. So even if it's Timmy and he's 4 and he's learning to read and he wants to say hi and he gets a stamp on his hand or just a greeting from the librarian who remembers him, that's a great way to create a relationship. Service is one of the things that's highest on my list. When I work in a library, I really do expect the librarians to deliver consistent, stellar service. And that is a greeting for people that walk in the door and a conversation for those that want it and maybe not a conversation for those that don't. But generous help, direction, or instruction on the things that they would like to find out about. In the library that I'm in now, we're looking for grant opportunities, and I heard that Albany County does the same thing to supplement some of those areas that our budget doesn't completely cover. And in Wyoming, Jamie Marcus at the State Library sends out a monthly list of webinars, little courses courses that you can take, that you can sign up for. Generally, they're free. I encourage staff to take advantage of those anytime that they can. A lot of them are archived, so you don't necessarily have to do them right at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3:30 when the kids are getting out and your webinar's on and you're just going to ignore the kids. But you take them when you can, and they provide, for me, they provide inspiration, they provide great ideas. You know, can we take that idea, can we modify it a little bit? Is there some way we can do that in our library? Or it just serves to keep you informed, and anytime you're informed, you can use that knowledge and that information in your community. I've moved several times in my life, and I didn't realize it until probably the last 5 or 6 years, but whenever we moved into a new town, we'd go first to the library. I think you can tell an immense amount about a community by looking at their library. What do they value? Are they friendly? Do they like to read? Do they welcome children? Do they welcome other people? Maybe not people you'd want in your living room, but other people. So are they welcoming me? And a lot about that town or that city can be seen. I think libraries are a great reflection of what that town and that community is like. And we haven't been wrong so far. Every time we've gone into a town, we went into that the library was terrible. They weren't friendly. They didn't welcome us. They didn't really want us in there, and it was quite plain. And the whole town was kind of like that. So I really do think libraries are a reflection of the community. So that's enough about, well, it's not enough about funding. The reason I put this one on here is because I think this is now the job of everybody that works in libraries. To be proud that you work in a library, to tell people you work in libraries, to sing from the tallest rock that you can get on in the middle of the town, and tell them about all of the resources and things that the library can offer to you. I think we have lost, or somehow, librarians are introverts. They just like to read. They just like to be left alone to read their book. But what we haven't done is got the message out there about how important libraries are. When we formed as a country, as a democracy, the libraries started to form to equalize their community, to educate people who couldn't afford to go to school, so that you could go to your library in the time of Benjamin Franklin and learn. And you can still do that. There are a lot of avenues for that, but you can still do that. So I think we need to sing out those attributes of libraries, especially to the people who fund us, so that they remember us when it comes to budget time. But we also need to tell the people in our public what we have to offer, what we could do to help them. So I think I'm standing right in front of you. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
So the screamer there, that's kind of me. But it really should be everybody that works in libraries, that really believes in libraries, to spread the word about how important libraries are to our communities, to our country, that people have free and equal access. Without libraries, I'm not sure that would happen. And then there's the second one, technology. Please never, ever, ever do this to a computer in the library. But as you know, technology is an issue, and we struggle with it. This is I know you can't see all of this. What it is my illustration of the things that technology offer us that we can key into as libraries that don't cost. Albany County is on Facebook. They have a Facebook page, and they update it, and they put their programs, things that they're doing, or things that are coming up, or information for the public on it. And if you read that, Facebook now, worldwide, Facebook now has 1 billion people on Facebook. So potentially, not in actuality, but potentially, by putting something on Facebook, you could reach 1 billion people. Hopefully you can reach people in your community that are also on Facebook, that look for information, things, and it's a cheap way to get our word out there. It would be the same thing with Twitter or Pinterest. Pinterest is one of the fastest growing new technologies out there. If you haven't tried it, it's a lot of fun, and it will waste all day for you. But if you put things up there that are of interest to your patrons, they might might key into that. And I think it's important to go where the users are. And sometimes those users are online. So this is just, and I know you can't read all of this, but this is just an example of connectivity. You've probably seen videos on, is that my time limit?
No.
You've probably seen videos on YouTube, and you may have heard of Yelp or one of the other geolocators. You might have listened to some music on Spotify or Pandora. All of those things are free, things that libraries could use or key into to cut down on costs. This is it's not an app. It's a mobilized web page that I created for Park County, and mobile apps are the most available and growing part of technology right now. So you can put Park County Library in your pocket, put it on your cell phone. Wherever you have a connection on your cell phone, you can search the catalog, or you can look at what your overdues are, or do some research on the research page if you can stand that tiny little screen. It's hard to do research on a cell phone, I think. But you could put anything on there, on that particular mobile site that is important to your library. So you could have Ask a Librarian on there. You could have the new material. I think that's always of interest. What's new in the library? So you could see that. So when you come into the library, you'd already know this is what I want, whatever. So you have it on there. You could also put programs on there, so you could update people on what's going on in the library. They have it in their pocket. They have it everywhere they go. This is my family. My don't know. Just wanted to introduce them to you while I was here. Actually, I don't know about you, but this really truly is my family. I look across the table, and this is the view that I have. And oddly enough, my son, who's the youngest one in the family, said to us when I went home and we went out to dinner, went, "Seriously? I'm here with you two, and you're both looking at your cell phone." So this is just a growing trend. Everybody's on their cell phone. They're communicating, they're emailing, they're keeping up on Facebook, they're talking to their friends. You know, they're doing all kinds of things. So that's where libraries need to be. They need to be where the people are. And this is just about mobile computing, I guess you could say. It's growing tremendously. Of course, it's growing in the 18 to 29 age the most. Not so much when you get older, but that's changing. It's just like Facebook. Originally it was for college students, and now they're saying the 65 and older group is on Facebook more than anybody else. So these are just the numbers that people are on online and on their cell phones. And cell phones are more accessible to people than computers. So you will find people that don't have computers may have a cell phone. So that's another issue with this digital divide. And this was a slide I took from Michael Stevens, who's kind of a library guru and was at our WLA conference this year in 2020. That will be the major form of connectivity that we have. So one of the other cell phone things that you can do, people are on Foursquare. I don't know if you've played on Foursquare. I hadn't because I didn't really want to be on there, because once you're on there, and I friend Michael, and then Michael knows everywhere I go. So when I go into the Albany County Library, I check in, and I might leave a tip. Circ staff's really friendly, help me find whatever, you know. Or I might say beautiful grounds, look at the trees around the Albany County Library. It's a beautiful place to go. And I can leave a tip on there. If I go to a restaurant, I can say the same thing. So I'm down at Sweet Melissa's, and I think, oh man, that falafel's the best I've ever had. I can put that on my Foursquare. And so the people that I've friended on Foursquare will know that that's a tip. The people that go into Melissa's will be also able to see that and go, oh, the falafel's really good here. So it's a connectivity, and I think I wasn't real comfortable with it because I'm not sure I want everybody in the world to know that, you know, just balloon or, whatever I just did that was crazy. I, backed into my neighbor's car. Now I'm getting my car fixed at the body shop. I'm not sure everything needs to be out there, but it is a way to connect. And if you look at this, Barrington Library has keyed into that. So if you checked in 10 times with Foursquare, they might give you a little something for that, a little prize. I do know that when I just bought my new computer, I went up to Billings over Thanksgiving. My old computer crashed. I knew I had to make this presentation. I'm absolutely panicked. I need a computer. This one's not working. Oh, help me. I don't want to buy a computer. Went into Best Buy in Billings, and every computer was there with a name on it, but no information. I didn't know what the hard drive was. I didn't know how many RAM. I didn't know the screen size. I didn't know the price. And the only way that you could get that was to take your cell phone and scan the QR code. And I thought, really? Does everybody know this? I know this, but I know people that don't know this. So how are you going to buy a computer? And as soon as I did that, when I checked in on Foursquare, I instantly got $20 off my computer. Made me feel a little bit better. Not a lot, but a little bit better. So there are ways that people are using this for marketing, and I think libraries can pick up on that as well. This is the offerings from the state of Wyoming, all the e-resources that we have now. Community Cloud is a relatively new one, and it's a great system to read books. Reading is the same thing, e-books that you can download if you have the correct reading device. We've had one click for a while, which is audiobooks, and brand new to us within the last, month or so, we now have magazines. So if you haven't heard about that, be sure and go to your library site and check out these things. The difficulty becomes that not all of these things play nice with all the readers that you have. I bought a Kindle, I love my Kindle, and it won't play in the pool. Amazon is not playing nice with libraries. I love Amazon, I love their website, but they don't play nice with libraries, so Kindles don't do you any good as far as, at least right now. Someday this, I think, will all get sorted out, but at least right now, you can't check out books from libraries with a Kindle. You can with a Nook. A Nook has a lot of different things. I think there's a digital editions, access, you have to set up an account here, you have to do this, you have to do that to get this stuff on the Nook. The iPad is kind of the granddaddy of all of them, but not everybody wants to pay $100 for an iPad. So we have these things, they're coming out. These are the things that librarians need to keep current on, keep trained on, and it's really difficult to do. Show somebody how to work an iPad if you don't have an iPad, if you've never touched an iPad. And not all librarians can afford to buy. I don't have one. But you have to be able to use those things and be familiar with them. Where I'm from in Powell, every kid from kindergarten to 12th grade gets issued an iPad when they go to school. So all those kids probably know a mountain more than I do about how to use an iPad, what it's for, how, but they'll come to the library, use our wireless, and ask questions of us. So we also need to know about iPads. And so do the people in Albany County. These people are buying iPads. Again, that's a money issue. Can you afford to buy? I can't afford to buy every reader that's out there. It'd be fun to have one of each. I jumped on it right away and got a Kindle, which maybe wasn't the best choice I could have made. I really, really enjoy it. When I traveled to Spain to see my daughter, I could download a book in Spain, and I can download a book up in the Sandies and the Green River Mountains when my husband wants to go camping, and I'd really rather just read a book. So I can take my Kindle up there, and if my book is done, I can download another one, which I found just lovely. Lovely. So there are some advantages. There's also some disadvantages, and librarians have to know all about those. If you don't know what a QR code, it's a square thing right here. You scan it in on a scanner on your cell phone or on your iPad, and it is like a portal to information. Just like when I was in Best Buy, I couldn't figure out what I kept going, what is this computer? It's pretty, but what does it have? I need to know what it has. I need to know more about it than this. And the only way I could get that information was through that QR code. We used them in Powell. I did a scavenger hunt for the kids because all the kids up there have iPads. So I did a thing where they can scan in the QR code, it would ask them a question. They would have to go to a certain part of the library, find a certain book, take a picture of themselves with the book, ask a question, and then send that all to a librarian, and then they got their name in for a movie night, 3 movies and popcorn and candy in a bucket, that kind of thing. So QR codes can be an information. You might see them in museums if you go somewhere to a big city. They sometimes have them in museums, and if you want to take a self-guided tour and you have your cell phone, you scan that QR code, it takes you to a video or an audio explanation of what it is you're looking at. Libraries can key into that kind of technology. It doesn't cost anything. It's staff time, and it's not that hard to do. So there are some things with technology that we need to look at, and I think the 5 C's, the big ones, are the things that we need to pay very close attention to in libraries. Community is really our most important thing. We need to represent our community. We need to involve our community. We need to be a part of the community. We need to use all the creativity that we have to provide programming, to find funding, and collaborate with other nonprofits, businesses, people with knowledge that may want to do a program in the community. I always encourage curiosity. I'm part of the staff. I like to create culture of learning and connectivity, which is very important. Connections between me and you, connections between me and the world, online with technology. And if you look up in the clouds, it's change. And that's what we face every day is change. The technology changes, so we have to incorporate all of these things to get us through those changes and to be ready for tomorrow. I think that librarians need to be involved in those things. They need to be connected. They need to try out new technology. They need to participate in the things that are going on around them. And I think for the most part, librarians do that with a lot of heart. They do this job because they love it, not because they're going to get rich doing it, but because they love it. They love the idea of information. They love the idea of equal access. They love the idea of being the person that can help you out with the information needs that you have. So if you combine all the words that go along with libraries, technology, community, change, books, challenges, all of those things, that's what librarians do, and I think that they do it with heart. So I ask you to appreciate your librarians. And then this is my crystal ball for the future. I've been asked that today. What do you think the future for libraries are? I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know. I think it involves a lot of technology. I think it involves a lot of information. I think it requires an educated staff that's very dedicated to their profession and to their community. So the future will bring us lots of things, hopefully all interesting and fun, but there will also, of course, be challenges. So to end it up, this is your sweet librarian who actually thinks she's a superhero. That's kind of my view of challenges and opportunities in libraries in the future. Maybe we can turn the lights back on.
And I'm sure, as I said before, Cindy would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Or just say hi. Yes?
Hi. I'd like to know more about yourself.
About me?
Other than what you told us.
I was born in Casper. I've been in Wyoming most of my life, a little bit in Montana, a little bit in Utah. I've lived now in all 4 corners of the state. I went to school in Laramie twice, graduated with bachelor's here twice, and then my husband and I started our family in Gillette, and I followed him with his career, and I decided a few years ago that I really wanted something more substantial. Every time we moved, of course, I started at the bottom. I got a job as a teacher's aide or working in the library part-time or something like that, and I thought, just enough of that. I've had it with this. So I was looking for something specifically to attach to what I already had educationally and to give me more opportunities. The job, I was working at the Western Wyoming Community College at the time. Job came open in the library. I took it and I started graduate school. So I finished up my master's degree in 2006. I worked in all the libraries, not all the libraries in Sweetwater County. There's a lot of little branches out there. I didn't work in those, but the main 3 libraries, I worked in all 3 of those. And then I was offered a position as the branch manager in Powell, which is a lovely, lovely community that doesn't get a lot of press or people don't know about it. It's a really beautiful little community. It has a wonderful library system, and I'm very honored that I work there with my staff also. I have a daughter who's traveled extensively, graduated in international studies. I think she has a double major in Spanish. She lived in Ecuador for a year and went to school. She's been to Tunisia, kind of scared me. China, South Africa, Spain, France, Germany, a lot of the European countries. She lived in Spain for 2 years as a Fulbright scholar.
What I was thinking of was your professional education or your graduate work, was it in library science?
It was. I have a degree in biology from the University of Wyoming, a bachelor's degree also in education from the University of Wyoming, and then my master's in library and information science was from the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and their library school there.
Okay. I think you really touched on a lot of it in your presentation, but how would you balance funding with personnel needs as the staff being overwhelmed and overworked because there isn't enough money?
I understand that. I've been in libraries and we've dealt with that. In Sweetwater County, we've got a $300,000 budget cut. I think it was 2 years ago now, and it was. And what we did in response to that, I'm not sure was necessarily correct. We did more. Our staff did more. We asked more of them. We did more programming. We did more classes. We did more. And I think there's a point that you can motivate people and then burn them out. And you don't want to get to that point. We're asking more of American workers in general, I think. I don't know what everybody's background is here, but I know with the people I know, they feel like they're doing more and more and more each day. And I think that's kind of an issue in our country and part of the economy that we're dealing with. Librarians, first of all, don't get paid to invest a lot of money because they don't make enough money to do that. So it's difficult for me to keep putting more and more and more and more on a staff when they're you saw the graphics. We're doing more across the board nationwide in libraries with less and less and less. And we're doing that because we have dedicated people who are smart and creative and are willing to do that. But there is a drop-off point where you can do that for a while, but honestly, you cannot work people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just can't do it. Personnel is the most valuable asset that you have. If you don't have personnel, you have a warehouse with some books and stuff in it. Without those people there to guide you through that, to help you find the things that you need, to teach you about education, about technology, you don't have anything. And so we can't burn out our staff. It's an issue. Being a librarian is, I think, a lot like being a teacher. You could do it 24 hours a day. You could take it home with you. You could work on it all night. You could stay at the office all night. You could keep working and working and working. And I think that if you look at our history, that doesn't really necessarily get us where we want to go. That leads to people just losing interest, being burned out, not being able to function anymore. So in the extreme case, I think that we have to be really careful about what we ask for. There's a lot that we can ask. There's a lot that libraries are capable of doing. More than there's never an end to the things that we could be doing, but we can't do all of it. Yes.
So to sort of follow up on that, then you said recruit and retain is like number one. What would you do specifically to recruit people and to retain them, given the economic situation that we're faced with?
Give everybody a win.
Yes.
It is really difficult, but I think that part of a job, is making a really pleasant atmosphere for people to work in. I worked in libraries where it was hard to go to work. It's difficult. You get the old sour-faced librarian, and I work with some of those. I'm not one of those. I hate that. It's intimidating. It's scary, and people won't ask you questions. And it's hard to work with somebody like that. I think, not to diminish your question, but to spread some comfort and joy. Make it an interesting place to work. Value the work that's being done. Encourage people. I don't, as you know, even in a position of county librarian, you don't have access to unlimited funds, so you're limited there. Of course, I would like to see librarian salaries go up, but it's pretty tough right now. So we have to work with what we have, and I think by valuing the employees and their voice, what they have to say, the work that they do, which is extensive and a lot. You saw all of the things that libraries are trying to do. It's important to let those people know that they are valued. That's kind of a mousy answer, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
When you talked about training staff and library resources and new technology and all that sort of thing, are you thinking people who run the information station and sort of the more full-time staff, or would you see that training as necessary for part-time service?
I do think I don't know specifically, but there are lots of times in my library that the only people that are there are part-time. And those people have to be able to respond to the questions that are given. So some people are more techie or more interested that way, but I really do think everybody needs to get their hands on the devices that the folks are using, be aware of the things that are out there, use the technology that we have as effectively as we can to promote libraries, but generally I would like to see everybody trained. There's a little bit of cross-training in libraries all the time, I think, so that jobs can be covered. And usually, at least in my experience, there are people that really get it and some that don't, and you can pass that off. You know, I can say, Michael, I don't get it. Here, help this person. I don't understand this one. You know, you can do some of that, but if you have, you have to have.
But you would be comfortable having the part-time service staff do the training?
I think they probably do. I know that when I worked at Circ Desk, people just come in and hand it to them. You know.
You would be fine with having the service staff take time off to train them? That's right.
Yeah. I mean,
that was my question.
Within reason, you know. The state library sends out webinars every month that people can get into. We can do some in-house training, and I do a lot of that in Powell with the databases. So those change all the time. Every time I turn it on, they changed it again on me. And I think, where did that one come from? I haven't ever played on that, you know. But I think generally we all should know as much as we can possibly know. The more we know, the more we have to get, the better community partner we have.
Cindy, you touched on this briefly in your funding component of the presentation, the importance of the community and specifically the decision makers, city councilmen, commissioners, etc. Given the opportunity, what would your plan be in Albany County to meet these people, make those relationships, and understand the budgeting process or the intricacies of it, I suppose?
For me, the budgeting process is going to be a steep hill, just like that one on the test. Yeah, I will rely on the people that do know and the board members that do know, and get as much education as I can on that. As far as relationships go, I think it's really important to maintain or develop those relationships. When those people are making their decisions or voting, I want them to remember, that new woman that's over at the library was saying this or that. If I don't say it, they'll never know it. It won't be in their head. So I want to be able to, part of my job, part of everybody's job in the library, if you work in the library, is to say it out loud. To make yourself be available to those people. And that may mean just walking over to their office and introducing myself and, asking them to lunch, talking about what the libraries have, what could the library do for you, if there's anything we can do for you. One of the things my current director in Park County did was very ceremoniously offer all of those decision makers their very own library card. Because she went in and looked and they didn't have one. So invite them to the, don't laugh. So invite them to the library, invite them to programs, invite them to anything we do. If we have to write out a handwritten invitation, that's fine. It's definitely worth the time to do that, I think. Yes, ma'am.
My understanding is that the board's intention is to find funding and to put together a new building at some point. What kind of vision do you have for what that new building might be as opposed to what we have here now?
Vision is kind of different sometimes than, it's like the difference between the dream and the reality.
Well, I'm thinking more about like priorities of space, priorities of funding, things like that.
I would like it to have a great spot in town that's accessible, that kids could get to without crossing a highway. And that's hard, because 15th is pretty busy, 9th is pretty, so you can't find one for every single neighborhood, but someplace that people can get to without a lot of issues. I think an outdoor space would be wonderful. It's always good, especially in the summer, do some outdoor programming with the kids, maybe have movies on the lawn, that type of thing. Kids have a lot of energy. Sometimes they just need to run, but there's a lot of things that you can't do when you're locked inside. For our centennial last summer, we did a ferry program, and it was the biggest thing that ever hit Powell, which just still surprises the heck out of me. But there's a book called Fairy Houses. I can't think of the author. I'm sorry. I'll get back to you on that one. And it is the most beautiful book. And to me, it would be like the book you took with your kids camping. So they could go out and gather up bark and rocks and stuff in the forest and make a fairy house. And so they did that at the library. And all the librarians wore wings and dressed like fairies. And people in Powell are still talking about that. When they come to the library, they go, "What? The wings? Where are the wings?" So that's not something you can, you can't really do that inside. And we have a really, literally small, tiny little place, and we probably had 60 kids in there, building little houses and very engaged in what they were doing. But it'd be lovely to have a more park-like place rather than a postage stamp spot. So an outdoor space would be great. I've seen libraries, we were talking about this earlier, that I've seen some the Salt Lake City Library has a underground igloo that you can climb through, and when you're in there you can see the pond that's outside above, only you're looking at it from underneath, so if there's fish, you can see them in there. They have a treehouse room, so you have to get down and go in there, and there's places they can climb up and read a book on a pillow. And so I think there's some really creative and interesting things that we could look at if, we're talking about dreaming, dreaming about libraries. But of course we have to operate with what's reasonable and kind of in a response for this community. So I do think there's a lot of creative things. I think a YA space with a door, sometimes, I don't know how many people come into the library, maybe when school gets out or when they're having a YA program and you think, seriously, I can't think, I can't hear, I can't read, so a YA area that maybe glassed in with the door so that the kids could still be kids and not be interfering with other library activities. Some meeting rooms would be great. A technology room or computer lab would be fabulous. Lots of connectivity, equipment for movie making and creative areas, and okay, close your eyes and imagine. There's
If you had to choose an allotment between, say, collection space and technology space or meeting room space, do you have a sense of where your percentages would be? I know I'm trying to pin you down, but I'm just looking at thinking very pragmatically, because the pond sounds awesome, but I'm not a pond. But just in a more pragmatic sense of what we currently have, what we might expand, where do you sort of see more focus, more space?
I still believe in books. I still believe the collection is very important. So I'd like to see I like to see shelving and shelving space. And I know in my library right now, we are out of space. There's no place in that library where we can put a shelf. And our shelves are full. So as we develop our collection, we practically have to take something out if we put something in. You know, we're just out of space. And basic library, that's what I think of a basic library. You have to have that space. The other things would be in an ideal world. In an ideal world, we'd have YA space. In an ideal world, we'd have a park with things and fabulous, you know, and technology space. So I really do have to say first is collection, second is technology. Programming, I would say, goes along. So third, maybe on the list would be those spaces. I think you need a story time space. You know,
We do too.
yeah. You know, story time is important. It may not be important to me, but it's important to little people to begin those skills. So we want to raise readers. We want to raise democratic, educated thinkers. That's where you start. It's with story time. So it's hard to give a percentage of those things. I've seen some great libraries out there. I've seen some that they're great. I don't like them as much, but you know, I think it would be a collaboration. It would be a talk with the architects. I understand that Godfrey, that company came in and did some things, and although I haven't gone through that process, when I looked at those kinds of companies that do that kind of assessment, they also come up with, we think this is what you need. They're very out front on how many square feet you need for this population, that kind of thing. So, you know, I'd definitely be interested in looking at that. But I'd love to see Laramie, which has a fabulous community, have a fabulous library building and space. That doesn't answer your question either, does it? I'm really cutting you short. It's hard to answer. It's hard to put everything that you want in.
How would you go about assessing how you would make those decisions? Maybe that's a fair question.
I think that is a fair question. I think I'd look at numbers. You know, who's coming in the library, who's using our library, who's not using our library, and why. What kind of circulation do we have on the things that we have in the library? What kind of usage do we have on the computer? What are people asking for when they come in? What kind of questions are we fielding? You know, in my library, it seems like it's more and more about e-readers. So that's why I emphasize those. We need to be upfront and educated and informed on what's out there and how we use them. It's kind of impossible. Those were the three main ones, but there's a lot of off-brands out there. And, you know, I have no idea how you, you know, it's almost impossible to know everything. But we can offer some programming on what's out there, what's available, and tips and things like that. You ask good, hard questions. I don't necessarily have a certain answer.
That's okay. I'm just going to have
In PAL, I started a survey, and it's kind of long, so I offered it for people to take it home if they like. And I think it's 4 or 5 pages, and it's what would you like to see in a library, what would you like to see that we don't have, what do you like that we do have, what do you think of our collection, what do you think of our staff, what do you think we'd like to see in the future, you know, every question I could put out there. So
that's something you're using in PAL right now?
yeah, so, you know, we could have some public forums, and some 5 years, certified, whatever, certified administrator, I guess. I have it in the back of my head, but I can't quite remember. Working really closely with the people that have worked with it in the past. I have connections in several places in the state, so I can always call on them. You know, how do you do this? How do you get through it? What does this mean? Those kind of things. But I think working with the local people and the budget that's there, and the board, you're scaring me to death. Because it is very important. Yes.
What does your husband do and how would he feel about moving from there again?
Well, he actually works in Salt Lake. We have a home in Rock Springs, and my son and my husband and actually my brother still live in that house, so we still have our house there. The plan was